All right, Madridistas, get ready. We're going deep on a topic that's been bugging us all.
Yeah.
ACL injuries at Real Madrid.
Yeah.
It's like every other week.
Right.
And a lot of folks are pointing fingers at our fitness coach, Antonio Pintus. Is he pushing the players too hard? Is that part of the problem?
Well, it's definitely a hot topic. But before we, jump to conclusions, we got to understand the science of these injuries, what an ACL tear really means.
Okay, break it down for us.
So think about it. Your knee.
Yeah.
Most complex joint in the body. Ligaments, muscles, tendons, it's all got to work together.
Right.
And the ACL, that anterior cruciate ligament, is key, connects your thigh bone to your shin bone.
Okay.
Stops the tibia from sliding forward, keeps the knee stable.
And when that ACL goes?
Ooh, it's bad news. We're not talking a little sprain here.
Right.
This is surgery, long rehab. We've seen it with our own players. It's rough.
Heartbreaking. And what's wild is that most of these tears, they're not from contact.
Right. Exactly. Our research, this Players and Coaches Awareness of article, it says 70% of ACL injuries are non-contact.
70%.
Yeah. So it's not just some crunching tackle.
So then what is it?
Think sudden changes in direction, hard stops, landing awkwardly from a jump, stuff footballers do all the time.
And stuff that's part of intense training, too. Which, of course,
Brings us to Pintus.
the man, the myth, the leg day legend.
Right. His methods, they're no joke, pushing those guys to the max.
And that's got to be good for something. Right?
Oh, for sure. That intensity has helped make Real Madrid what it is, no doubt.
But could it also be part of this ACL problem?
That's the question, isn't it?
So is Pintus like creating ticking time bombs in their knees?
Whoa, hold on. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. ACL injuries, they're multifactorial. It's never just one thing.
Okay, so there's more to the story.
Way more. We've got to look at the whole picture.
All right, let's do it. Break it down.
Okay, picture this. Ligaments are kind of like rubber bands, right? They stretch and recoil, give your joint support.
Okay, I'm with you.
But just like a rubber band, if you keep stretching it too far, too often, no rest.
It snaps.
Exactly. So could Pintus's training be doing that, overstretching those ligaments, making them vulnerable? It's possible.
Interesting.
And there's research on this, not specific to football, but the first page PDF thing, it shows that repetitive stress on ligaments, without enough recovery, it's a recipe for trouble.
Okay, so maybe Pintus is pushing them too far, but couldn't you also argue that intense training, if done right, makes them stronger, like more resistant to injury?
That's a good point. Stronger muscles definitely help stabilize the knee. It's all about balance, finding that sweet spot between pushing for performance and giving the body time to adapt.
Walking that tightrope.
Yep, and here's the thing. Every player is different. Different bodies, different genetics, different histories. What works for one guy might be too much for another.
So zooming out a bit, what's the research say about coaches and ACL injury prevention in general? Like, are they even aware of the problem?
That's where things get a little worrying. There's this big gap between the science and what's actually happening on the training ground. Even experienced coaches, they often don't know enough about preventing these injuries.
Seriously, at the pro level.
You'd be surprised. A lot of them rely on their gut, old habits, what they've always done, instead of looking at the research.
That's kind of scary, isn't it? If experienced guys are missing this, could Real Madrid be missing it too?
It's a valid question. And that brings us back to Pintus and that €1 million question. Is he the one to blame?
The suspense is killing me.
Hold tight, we'll get there. But first, we need to dig a little deeper into these other factors we talked about. The things besides training that can lead to these injuries.
Okay, lay it on me.
We gotta talk biomechanics, how each player's body moves naturally. Some folks are just more prone to these injuries because of the way their joints are structured. And genetics play a role too.
Like some people are just born with weaker ligaments.
It can happen, just like some people are more prone to certain diseases. And then there are past injuries, the playing surface, and sometimes, just plain bad luck.
Wrong place, wrong time.
Exactly. So it's this whole complex web of factors. It's not as simple as pointing the finger at one guy and saying, he did it.
Okay, I get it. It's complicated. But if we can't just blame Pintus, and we know all these other things are involved, what can Real Madrid do to protect our players? Like, what are the solutions here?
That's the question, isn't it? And it's a good one. But I think we need a whole nother segment to really unpack it.
All right, Madridistas, you heard the man. We're just getting started on this deep dive. Stick with us.
We were talking about data, right? How it could help prevent these injuries.
Yeah, like some kind of futuristic knee-saving tech.
It's not that far off, actually, but it's not just about the gadgets.
Okay, so it's more than just strapping sensors on the guys.
Way more. It's about understanding each player on a deeper level.
Like what makes their knees tick.
Exactly. Using data to see those tiny things you can't spot with the naked eye.
Things that could lead to an injury down the line.
Right. Little imbalances, movement patterns, those early warning signs.
Like before it's too late.
Exactly. Say a player's overcompensating somewhere, putting extra stress on a ligament. We can see that in the data, adjust their training before it becomes a problem.
Smart. So it's all about being proactive.
Absolutely. Staying one step ahead of those ACL gremlins.
So it takes a team, right? Coaches, doctors, data nerds, all working together.
100%. Gotta have everyone on board.
Speaking of coaches, what about Pintus? I mean, we know his methods are tough, but he's not making these decisions alone, right?
No way. He's part of a system working within the club structure.
So there are other people involved in these training plans.
For sure. He's got to be collaborating with the medical team, right? Making sure the players aren't being overloaded.
So maybe it's not fair to pin it all on Pintus?
Exactly. It's a shared responsibility. And, you know, the research we have, it shows that a lot of coaches, they just don't have that knowledge about preventing these injuries.
We talked about that earlier, like they're relying on old methods.
Yeah, and there's this study, it found that a lot of coaches are hesitant to try new injury prevention programs. They say they don't have the time, the resources, all that.
So even if Pintus wanted to focus on prevention, he might be hitting roadblocks.
Possibly. And that's where the club leadership needs to step up, right? Create an environment where this stuff is a priority.
Like actually put their money where their mouth is.
Yep. Provide the resources, the education, make it clear that player health matters.
Actions speak louder than words.
That's it. Invest in research, embrace the science, and build that culture where taking care of the players is number one.
Okay, so the club has a role, the coaches do too. But what about the players themselves? Can they do anything to protect themselves?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Empowering players to be proactive is huge.
So it's not just about blindly doing what the coach says.
No way. They need to understand their bodies, know the risks, and take ownership of their health.
Okay, give me some specifics. What can they actually do?
The basics are crucial. Warm up, cool down, those can't be skipped.
Yeah.
Gotta prep those muscles, prevent those strains and tears.
Makes sense. And I'm guessing strength training is key too, right?
Big time. Strong muscles mean a more stable knee. But it's not just about lifting heavy weights.
So it's got to be targeted.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exercises that focus on balance, coordination, things like that.
And there's that fancy term you used before.
Neuromuscular control.
Yeah, that one. Break it down for me again.
Think of it as the connection between your brain and your muscles. It's how your brain tells your muscles what to do, when to fire.
So it's like improving that communication.
Exactly. And there are exercises that can help with that. Make those muscles around the knee more responsive, better able to protect the joint when things get dicey.
So players can do their part.
Yeah.
But they still need support from the club, right? That open communication thing we talked about.
For sure. Gotta have that trust. Players need to feel comfortable speaking up if something feels off. Know they can take time to recover without being penalized.
So it's about creating that safe space.
Yep. Where their health, both physical and mental, is truly valued.
Hold up. Mental health?
Yeah.
We're going there.
Oh yeah, it's all connected. Stress, anxiety, fatigue, all that can play a role in injuries too.
Wait, so a stressed out player is more likely to tear their ACL?
It's a factor. When we're stressed, our muscles tense up, our coordination goes out the window, reaction times slow down. It's a recipe for disaster.
So what's the solution there? How do we help these guys chill out?
That's a whole other deep dive. But the short answer is, gotta give them the tools to manage the pressure. Sports psychologists, mindfulness stuff, healthy habits, all that.
So it's a holistic approach.
Exactly. Mind, body, the whole package.
Okay, so we've got the club, the coaches, the players. But there's one more thing we gotta talk about.
Hit me.
Luck. Sometimes, no matter what you do, freak stuff happens.
Ah, yes, the wild card.
You can analyze all the data, train perfectly, and still,
Sometimes it's just bad luck. Wrong place, wrong time.
a weird twist, a bad landing, a collision you can't avoid.
Yep. And those moments, they're tough for everyone.
I still remember insert player name, here's injury. It was like the whole stadium went silent.
That collective groan of despair, every Madridista feels it.
And it reminds you, some things are just out of our control.
True. But that doesn't mean we give up on prevention altogether.
Right, it's about being realistic. but always looking for ways to improve.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Which brings us to the final chapter of our deep dive.
Where we finally answer the question, is Pintus to blame?
Let's do it.
All right, Madridistas, get ready for the verdict. All right, Madridistas, we've gone deep, haven't we? ACL injuries, the science, the stats, the whole Pintus debate.
Yeah, it's been a journey.
It has, so let's get to it. Is Pintus the bad guy here? Is he the reason for all these torn ACLs?
It's tempting to point fingers, right? But we got to remember what we've learned.
That's just complicated.
Yeah, exactly. These injuries, they're not simple. It's a bunch of factors coming together at the worst possible moment.
So Pintus's training might be a part of it, but not the whole story.
Right. We can't ignore the intensity, the pushing to the limit. That puts stress on those ligaments, especially if there's not enough recovery built in.
But we talked about all those other things too. The biomechanics, the genes, just being unlucky.
Exactly. It's a recipe, not just one ingredient. So instead of blaming one guy, let's flip the script. What can Real Madrid do to protect our players going forward? That's the real question.
Okay, I like that. Solutions, not scapegoats.
Exactly. So what needs to happen? First off, a real solid injury prevention program. And I'm not talking about a few stretches before practice.
No, something more serious.
Way more. It's got to be tailored to each player, their body, their history, what they need.
So experts who can look at each guy and figure out what works for him.
Exactly. People who are up on the latest research, know how to spot those weaknesses, and design exercises that target them. Stronger muscles, better balance, teaching guys how to move without putting so much stress on the knees.
Like giving them the tools to protect themselves.
Exactly. And along with that, education. Players gotta be in the loop, understand the risks.
So they can be part of the solution, not just taking orders.
Yep. Knowing when something feels off, not being afraid to say something, understanding why recovery is so important.
Building that trust.
100%. Between players, coaches, medical staff, everyone's got to be on the same page.
And maybe this is where Pintus, even with his tough reputation, can actually help.
I think so. The guy's intense, yeah, but he's also all about getting the best out of these players.
So if he can combine that drive with this smarter, more individual approach,
he could be a real leader in this, showing other clubs how it's done.
that would be awesome.
Yeah.
But it's got to be a team effort, right? The whole club has to be committed.
No doubt. From the president down to the trainers. Investing in research, giving the staff what they need, making it clear that player health is non-negotiable.
Because winning is great, but not at the cost of our players' futures.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Taking care of those guys, that's got to be the priority.
Absolutely. So Madridistas, what's the takeaway here? What do we do with all this?
Simple. Let's stop the blame game and focus on solutions. Demand better from our club, push for that science-backed approach. Let's protect our players.
Couldn't agree more. All right, folks, we've reached the end of our deep dive. Hope you learned something.
As always, Real Madrid.
Real Madrid.